Alyssa is a supervisor on the discoverability, thank you, team at VMLY&R, working with one foot in social media and the other in organic search to develop strategies that work the hardest for clients. These strategies focus on optimizing content and properties to help brands be discoverable across social and search engine platforms. She works at the forefront of helping clients strategize their approach to Google search, Pinterest search, Instagram search, Facebook search, and Giphy search, as well as visualized search and voice search. Most recently, she's been working with Wendy's, Miami Tourism, and Bailey's. Welcome, Alyssa.
Move around a little bit. Can you hear me okay? This is awesome. Hey, my name is Alyssa. Like this kind of, what's your name?
Lena.
Lena, like Lena said, I work at VMLY&R. I love being here today. I know every speaker says like they're excited to be here today and they love being here, but I especially love being with WordPressers. I think it's so cool that WordPress is not just a platform. It's a community of people who love learning from each other, lifting each other up, thriving from that. So I'm excited to be in this space today and to share some things, learn from you all. We'll have Q&A at the end. Definitely want it to be very open discussion, and even if you have some ideas to bring to the table, I'd love to hear them. But today we're going to talk about mining search engines for content opportunities. And Lena talked a bit about what my jargony job title is, but at the end of the day, I help clients get found wherever they want to be found, whether that be across search, social. I think about different platforms and how every opportunity is a different opportunity to optimize something to be found and help clients identify those things and then help them be found in the ways that they want to be found. Those are a couple clients I've worked with or am working with, and it's been a long and winding journey through search and social, but I'm really excited to be kind of at this hybrid, interesting place right now. So thinking about search and thinking about the evolution of search, I'm sure that we remember Search BC, these days of Ask Jeeves, Clippy. Anybody remember that text service that you used to text to and then people would reply and answer, and it was usually wrong because it was just somebody trying to get 5 cents for every answer they sent out. Well, even though these were terrible user experiences for the most part, I think all of these are important when you think about search because they started to influence the way that people ask questions. It kind of tapped in a lot to our innate human curiosity, and because of that, things like Google and Bing had their start, and they had the ability to tap in more to that human curiosity of wanting to have the answer instantaneously for something, and having an encyclopedia of whatever they want at their fingertips. And that has evolved so much into rich, intent-rich results full of media and news and just lots of different compelling ways. And this is Search AD, and because it is, there's so many areas to engage with, and Google is constantly making updates, constantly adding new snippets, new boxes, new appealing visual features. Search is more intuitive than ever. And so I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the search bar is very much a peek into your soul. Like, for instance, who would be willing to share their last 2 years of Google search history? Maybe you'd be willing to share the last week, the last day, but somewhere in there's a dumb question or just something very revealing that you were trying to figure out. And so search trends really are, and search itself, are a peek into the soul. So when we think about that, I think about search as a great way to inspire ideas for your content planning, but also provide a filter so that you know what people are actually interested in, what they're searching for. So we're going to play a fun little mini game before we get into the meat of the presentation, just to demonstrate this idea. This is a game we played with Wendy's, which is why it says chicken nuggets in particular. We went through a bunch of different terms. But this is Guess That non-autocorrect. So out of all of these, one of these is not a true autocorrect. 3 of them are true, 1 of them is not true. So guess whichever one you think is not true. Okay. So it's pretty revealing. I mean, like, it's kind of sad. Somebody really did search for chicken nuggets are my family. It's a real autocorrect there. I did go into incognito mode, so don't worry, it's not a pass search for myself. I'm doing okay. I've got a great family. But I think this all highlights that you really don't know what you don't know. You don't know what your audience is searching for if you don't listen into search trends and listen into not only the things they're searching for, but the ways that they're searching for. Because I truly believe that if you use the language and the topics that people are interested in and talk about those topics and the ways that they're interested in, it just helps fuel your whole content machine. Your natural language optimization in your posts makes it easier for your content to be found by search engines. When you share that content out into your social channels or email, it's more accessible, more interesting because it taps into what people are curious about at that time and hopefully what specifically your audience is curious about. So today we're going to dig into different ways to use search engines to do just that. Figure out what people are searching for and how they're searching for these things. So first we're going to get into Google search because, you know, talked a lot about Google search, so we're going to talk a little bit more about it and just dig in a little bit more. So 71% of consumers' journeys start with a search engine. So that's very revealing, especially if your WordPress site is something that's tied to commerce, leads, sales, anything of that nature, or if you just even are part of a journey in educating someone and leading them to a sale as part of your WordPress blog. All of these journeys, or most of them, start with a search engine. And this stat is actually from, I want to say, 2016. So I could pretty confidently say that even more journeys start with search engines now. So a great tool is to go incognito mode because Google is always looking at your past search history. They're trying to always deliver the best, most intuitive search for you. So because of that, they're going to be looking at your local search and all of that. It's the best you can do is go on incognito mode. It's still going to try and be a little intuitive with its autocorrect, but the search results you'll see will hopefully be unfiltered. And when you start to get into this, you can start to use things like the autocomplete I showed you, or these fantastic new people also ask boxes. Google added those, I want to say, in the last 2 years, and it's been a great tool because they're basically aggregating. They're looking at your question and they're aggregating all these other questions that people ask about it, and then they're serving it to you in this really visually appealing format. And the more that you click on these, the more answers, more questions and answers appear. So this is a great way to peek into what is Google identifying, not only as questions that people are answering, but what sites are they identifying as the source for being that answer. Because ultimately, in your high hopes, you would want to be that source. And I'm not going to get as much into optimization today, but at the end of the presentation, I have some suggested sessions to go to up your SEO so that you could have a chance of being shown here. First of all, I hope that you went to Corey Morris's session because that would be prime foundation for all of that. But there are a lot of ways to strategically try and get into those people also ask boxes. Another thing to look at is Google Trends, trends.google.com. They not only show you what people are searching for and interested in that moment, but you can also toggle and look at different locations, whether it's web search, YouTube search. They're even adding shopping in there, which is really interesting as well. You can adjust the time period. And you have to be, this, I would say with these results, this is more of an inspiration point, because keep in mind, Google Trends is a dynamically changing platform. So I've had many occasions where I've taken a screenshot of these suggestions down below, and I've done the same time period and taken the screenshot again, and it's showing me different things. So just keep that in mind, that it is kind of a very dynamic platform. But I think it's a great place to first of all show you seasonal interest. and you can compare different terms to see which one has higher search volume. It's a great way to also visually show your point if you want to push for something that it has better natural language, and someone's like, like I'm working on a client that we're having a discussion about HVAC versus heating and cooling, and which one is, something that's going to be more of a natural language term that people would use. And so maybe you could put those into Google Trends and see which one has the highest search volume to look into that. It also shows you locations. So if your WordPress site is one that you're trying to optimize regionally, nationally, internationally, you can also see locations for top searches. So it's a really awesome tool, and it's completely free, which is fantastic. So, of course, when you're getting all this inspiration, you're finding all these cool things, these chicken nuggets are my family terms, and of course you kind of want to maybe check and make sure that this is actually a thing, like how much do people really care about this topic? And that's when you want to start to check against keyword volume. One of my favorite plugins is a Google Chrome plugin called Keywords Everywhere, and it allows you, when you're searching, to put in different terms, and it shows over to the right of your search results related keywords, and people also search for the search volume, some information about the paid search advertising, which if you are looking into paid search advertising, I know there's a session later today, great tool for that. I really like it as well because you could export the CSV and then use that to write your content and reference, so that you don't have to have a million screenshots of keywords. You can actually check the volume here. Again, I really like this tool because it kind of just checks and makes sure that the thing that you want to write about is actually a thing. And also, of course, it's great to also look for niche topics that have a decent amount of search volume, like maybe 100 to 500 searches per month, but less competition on them. Cool tool to use for that, and it just shows up right there on your search results. Now, one to not be neglected is YouTube search. And I've heard some people say, well, I'm not on YouTube, we don't make videos, we don't have videos on our site. And that's totally cool. I think the thing to keep in mind is that YouTube is the world's second largest search engine, right behind Google, further enforcing what a behemoth Google is. But even if your brand or your site isn't producing videos on YouTube, it's great to consider how your industry might be on YouTube. And your audience might be looking for things on YouTube. And the searches on YouTube, although you can kind of see correlation between the different topics that you're seeing on YouTube that you'd see on search, it has different intent. It's looking for different things. And you might be surprised by, for instance, looking at real estate, what real estate videos you would find, and maybe it can even help make a case for you wanting to create videos for your site. I also wanted to touch on voice search. Voice search is something I'm really excited about. At VMLYNR on my team, my discoverability team, which to break down that jargon, is an organic search, paid search, and performance content team. Performance content is strategic copywriters who write for search. So we all work together on a bunch of different efforts. And one of the things we're exploring is voice search. And the reason we're exploring it and have put so much more effort into exploring it in the past year is because of its large adoption. And just like we saw with Ask Jeeves and then Google changing the way that users interact with search engines and feed their curiosity, the same thing is happening with voice search. We are, as organic search and paid search experts, we're pulling our reports and seeing things like, take me to Wendy's, and okay, Google, what's the best, can dogs eat bananas? That's things that we're literally seeing in our reports. And because of that, even though we can't, even though Google's not identifying that it's a voice search source, I personally predict they will start to add that to Google Analytics here pretty soon. I mean, you can kind of tell by the intent that it is a voice query. So large adoption, 50% of voice searches are 50% of searches are predicted to be by voice. That's also included in mobile voice search that you do on your phone. For instance, if you're using Google as voice. There are over 1 billion voice searches monthly, and an estimated 50% of people use voice search to research their products, which is a piece that I find really curious because I think people are starting to lean into the different voice search devices in different ways. And the two that I want to touch on today are the Google products as well as the Amazon products. These tap into two different search engines, Google of course, as well as Amazon. And depending on what your brand is and what you want to optimize for, it is interesting to have some queries against Google, see what the answers are, see if the same answer is served or the same site is served for multiple answers. Maybe that's a sign that's a site you should check out because they have something going on that's really good. It's also something to keep in mind with the Google Home is that the majority of the answers that Google is sharing on those voice search queries are featured snippets, which are those really visually appealing search results that appear at the top of search result pages. So if you are in a position where your site is optimizing for those and thinking about optimizing for those, that is one of the ways to actually be indexed in voice queries. But it's also interesting to think about Amazon as well and the way that you can search for products and what products show up. And of course, they very much control their algorithm and what they share, but it can be revealing to also show you the trends that Amazon is pushing as well that you could maybe lean into. And then for Pinterest search is its own very appealing lifestyle platform. I think of Pinterest as its own search engine. And back in 2017, they reported that 2 billion searches happen on Pinterest every month. Again, I predict that has grown even more since then. And people very much, when we think about Pinterest, they often very much use it for inspirational planning. So even if you don't have a brand that is perfect for Pinterest, like even if you don't have, I would say like travel, cooking, fashion, lifestyle kind of brands, it's still interesting to look at Pinterest because 90% of their searches are unbranded. So it's people, being in that purest of inspirational forms, and it's interesting to see what they're thinking about. And perhaps if you think about where your audience is, maybe they're searching for things on Pinterest too. Pinterest reports that there's a large number of parents who use Pinterest. Particularly, they see a lot of dads using Pinterest as well to look for projects. Also, there is, of course, a strong female, like 25 to 54, which is a big range from the tail end of Gen Z through millennial to Gen X, and how they use Pinterest to plan life moments, like travel, like cooking, like fashion. But also bigger life moments as well, like buying a house and even like planning for career moves and that sort of thing. So it's interesting to see what they're searching for and what kind of inspiration is there. I also think that Pinterest search can also kind of help you fine-tune the timing of things. Every year they share this Pinterest possibilities calendar, and this shows you just visually the visualization of how people start searches on Pinterest so early. So for instance, if you look at the holiday season, they say that it's like Christmas in July. People start searching for Christmas things in July, and then it just goes on from there until even the end of January. So even a tail end that maybe people don't think about because people are already thinking about the next year and planning while they're fresh. So with that in mind, I feel like Pinterest can kind of be your canary in the coal mine of when you actually look to publish content about different topics. I know from working in social media, we've had so many times where we're like, should we talk about Halloween? Should we talk about Halloween? Is it too early to talk about Halloween? Oh crap, it's already passed. Everybody was done talking about Halloween. So in those kind of moments for different life occasions, depending on where your brand and your site might fit in, you can use this kind of calendar and Pinterest tools to help you plan for that. I also think that they share a large amount of research that they don't give themselves enough credit for. They, if you go to business.pinterest.com, they are constantly sharing lifestyle trends. And of course, some of these are like, like fan camping and carry-on packing lists and van life ideas. Like, again, you're like, okay, even if your brand isn't Winnebago, you can still think about what's on people's minds and even use that to incorporate into your content or into your inspiration to get into the mindset of what people are searching for. I really like it too because they also share metrics with this to show just how much the search interest has increased year over year. This is another one that I, again, like kind of random, barn dominiums, chicken coops. Maybe it ties into your brand, maybe it doesn't, but it's just really interesting to see what people are searching for and the increase or decrease of those searches. And then I also think it's always interesting to bring up the Pinterest search bar itself. Pinterest is like I said, a lifestyle search engine. And just like Google, they're showing you trends. But unlike Google, they're not personalizing as much of the search bar to you as they are the feed. So I pestered Pinterest. So I was like, I need a straight answer on this. Is this true? The search bar, they did confirm, is not specific to you. It's specific to the whole of Pinterest lifestyle trends and that Pinterest universe. Because they would rather show you inspiration since they recognize they're at the beginning of that inspirational consumer funnel. So whatever you see up there is dynamic to kind of like what the community is searching for in general. Also, I love to note that if you go in and you can like act like you're setting up Pinterest ads without ever putting in a credit card, you can, or paying any money, you can look and they'll show you different paths for different keywords and actually allow you to export whole keyword lists, showing you what people are interested in and different groupings even of how they follow those searches. It's really revealing to find keywords and trends, as well as like figuring out the path that people follow to get there. So you might be wondering, where do you go from here? And I really think that, first of all, I've talked a lot about identifying trends, but you really need to identify the trends that matter specifically to your audience, which is, I think it's really, I love keyword research, if you can't tell. It's like my favorite thing at my job. But at the end of the day, I might be chasing something that isn't important to my audience at all. So it's really important to match these trends against other pieces of data that you own and that are owned and that you can make sure are actually interested in your audience, or maybe even consider the old-fashioned survey. I think that surveys and email is totally under-touted for how powerful it can be to give you true audience insights. The next thing you want to do is create a sustainable plan and testing agenda. And when I emphasize sustainable, I mean, of course, we have these moments where you're like, I want to produce 10 pieces of content a week for this audience, and 5 the next week for this, and then we're going to do a white paper, and we're going to create a video, and like just be really realistic with yourself so that you can actually follow this program and learn from it, have the right stakeholders in the room, have the right buy-in from the right people, and also recognize that you might need some paid promotion to make this whole engine run. Because even paid traffic is counted as a positive signal to Google because it's traffic. They just look for traffic. But of course, if you can get organic traffic, that would be the definite plus. And then optimize your WordPress site for search engines to find you. I was talking earlier about featured snippets, and there's a lot of different ways how you could even choose different like schema plugins to help you with your structured data, to help your site be more appealing to Google. I went ahead and kind of, like I said, I hope you attended Corey Morris's session because he would be up here if he was later in the day because he's really great SEO expert. But some sessions to attend if you want to try and up your Google optimization so that you can start to be more visible to search engines. These are some ones later in the day to check out. Faster sites lead to better rankings in Google. True story. Google now has a mobile optimization factor that if your mobile site is slow, they won't send people to it. And I've seen a lot of people get dinged for that and are trying to recover. Schema, I love that. Schema, exclamation point. Benefiting users and robots alike. It's talking about schema. Excellent to learn about. There are so many opportunities with schema, and schema even has a beta. They even have a structured data, like voice search markup that you can do right now. That's really could be really appealing if you want to try and get into those voice search results. And then advanced analytics with Google Analytics. With Google Analytics, Craig had it. And like I was saying before, Google Analytics is the core of all of this, and your analytics to understand your audience and help make it run is essential to matching up these trends against what your audience actually cares about, and making sure that you're creating the right content for them. So this is my information. My name is spelled a little bit weird. It's Alysmurfey. I love connecting with people, so if you want to connect on LinkedIn, if you want to tweet on Twitter, please connect with me. If there's anything we don't cover today, or if you're just a more shy person, which in some instances you'd be surprised I actually am, I'm an introvert extrovert. You might want to ask a question via Twitter or LinkedIn versus in the room, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you on that. So that's what I have today. Thank you so much for your time. And I wanted to take some time to have an open discussion, take some questions, and see if you guys have any curiosities over the material that you'd like to dig into.
If you do have any questions, please wait for the microphone so we can capture all the questions.
We want to make sure that you guys are steps in. So the next person should ask
I'll
the
try
question
to walk
over
fast.
here.
So my question is on the metrics with the keywords anywhere. Like, I love that plugin. I spend like half my day in it every day. But I've been noticing that I feel like some of the numbers feel like they have to be really low, because I'm like, no. People actually come to this page on my website like 1,300 times a month, but it says only 300 people search for it. And so do you have any rule of thumb for like a multiplier, or do you just use it as a gut, or,
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think with keyword volume, it's hard because it's like sometimes you see something that has thousands of searches a month, and then to your point, you have a topic that you get strong interest in. I think in that instance, they're looking at the average, so the more that people search, the more that sometimes niche topics are showing up as a lower average, but it sounds like you found a really good niche topic. And I think my personal rule of thumb for niche topics is like, it depends on the topic. Again, like you want to make sure that it's something that your audience is actually interested in, that you know maybe from offline sources that people are searching for that within your audience. I would say looking for something that at least has 50 monthly searches would be interesting to see if that is a niche topic and test it out. But I totally agree with you. If you are seeing something that, like, first of all, if you're seeing numbers going down, I think that's just because of the average volume and the fluctuations with that. But if you're still getting traffic, I mean, at the end of the day, that's the tell-all, and maybe perhaps to test out if this is actually a niche topic for your audience, you find a related keyword or a related content topic to test and see if it also performs as well. Yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, I have to come all
Of
the way.
course, it has to be on the other side.
How often with Pinterest do people actually click through to the website versus just pinning it?
That's a really good question. She was wondering how often on Pinterest do people click through the website versus just pin. And it really depends. I think that the way that people use Pinterest is often like a mood board to plan things. And so I've seen a lot of times where perhaps they pin something like way early in the season, but they don't click it until later. So I think first of all, when thinking about Pinterest and clicking, especially like if someone's planning for their wedding, maybe they started planning before they ever got that ring. But they started pinning dresses and things, and then eventually when they got the ring and they're like planning for their wedding, they start clicking and engaging. I think it also depends on what kind of content you're putting up. And I think we have some control as marketers to encourage that click-through rate with the visuals we use, with the topics that we use to make it more compelling. But something that is like more like a visual mood board, like just a visual dress without copy, I would think that someone would be more likely to use that kind of as like, this is my inspiration and something they just pin and scroll through, versus something that's like, takes up more real estate, has compelling text, like 6 reasons you should travel to Miami, something like that.
Or like recipes kind of get a click-through rate.
Yes, recipes see higher click-through rates. I think that it really depends on the content. It depends on where someone is at in that life stage planning, but we as marketers can encourage that with clickable topics and compelling creative for it. But in terms of how many people click through, Pinterest loves to report that they send a lot of traffic. I personally think it really depends on the topic.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You can just say, I'll repeat the question in the microphone so that the camera can get it. I was joking about the steps. You're really nice.
It's totally fine.
Well, what's your question?
I'm just kind of wondering how you came to Pinterest as a keyword research for content discovery.
How did I come to it?
Yeah, in the first place, yeah.
Yeah. I went into it, actually. He was wondering how discovered Pinterest as a keyword research tool. When I was working on the Tennessee tourism account, we got more into Pinterest. I actually got to go out there, and Pinterest is like one of my favorite platforms in general, so I just lost it. It was so cool. Maybe cried, like happy cried in the bathroom a little bit, and like had to get my stuff together and be like, okay, I just enjoyed that moment, we're moving on. But I came to it being in those moments and those planning moments with the Tennessee team. The Pinterest reps, when you have a rep, you know, I know this is like the dust story at all. When you have a rep, they tend to pull more things for you. And they started pulling keywords for us for advertising, and I was doing the organic social at the time, so they were pulling things and they were showing us how, like, you know, planning for leaf peeping, which is a big thing in Tennessee, starts way earlier than we were planning content and advertising for. And that's when I started asking them more questions about their search engine. And then every rep that came into town, I was always like the weird one. Everybody's like, what dimensions should it be? What creative should we use? I'm like, what is the search engine like? And so eventually the other reason that I started to really get into it was also when they started talking about their taste graph, which is how they are using, you know, dynamically using everybody's interests to generate what is the most interesting to people in these trends and these keywords to power their advertising. So that's when I was like, okay, well, I wonder if I could use that for content. And sometimes I do like to take the Pinterest queries and put them into Google and see what comes up, because it's interesting. A lot of times you'll see similar topics, you'll just see it be branded, see it be a little further down the funnel, or just be worded a little differently. Thank you, good question. Well, where are we at for time?
We're still 25 minutes, 15 minutes before we take a
Okay, well, what is your question?
I've seen a lot of articles talking about Pinterest groups generating a lot of traffic. Have you seen that as a trend?
Yeah, I think that groups in general is something that social engines are moving into. This year at Facebook, at their big conference, they announced that they were like, we are going into groups. We're going away from brands. It's all about communities. It's all about groups. So I think that that's a trend that we're seeing across networks in general. Groups on Pinterest, I think, are a very compelling and exciting tool. In terms of driving traffic, I think it's all about the way that you set it up and how much control you have over it. Because I personally, whenever using the group tool, have more used it as a way to like facilitate content from influencers that people can come look at, or facilitate just sharing of ideas. I think it's a really interesting idea to think about it more as a tool to actually be a marketing tool beyond that. I don't have any personal experience at how much traffic it's driven. When we did that influencer campaign, it was tough because the reporting period was only like for 6 months. And I feel like I'm not on the account anymore, so I can't look at the metrics. But I feel like we would have seen traffic like later on from creating this group of influencers than we did back then. But the group if you look at the trends across Instagram, who's now letting us send messages in groups, Facebook, who's now doing these group TV watch party things, like every platform is trying to reconnect us again, recognizing that people are using the platforms to try and just do just that. They're trying to remove as many barriers as possible to make people spend more time on their platforms connecting with each other. Maybe even, I have a personal theory that Facebook would love to just take over SMS and, you know, be the WhatsApp, be the Messenger, be the, you know, Facebook feed that everybody needs for their end-all be-all of communication.
I just had a follow-up comment to that. They just folded group, or the communities are now group boards.
Yeah.
So Pinterest doesn't have the communities.
Oh, so they don't have the
They
communities
don't have
anymore?
communities anymore. They folded them into group boards. So it's just, they've kind of changed.
So it's not the community anymore, it's just the basic, like, if you invite someone, they can head to this
Yeah.
board now. Oh, that's what I thought you were talking about. Were you talking about a different feature?
No, I was talking about groups.
Okay, sorry, okay, cool.
That's okay. It was just a verbiage.
No, you're all good. That's a really interesting update. I need to dig into that a little bit more. Whenever they fold a feature, I'm always interested in like what went wrong,
Right.
why did they fold it? You know, it's interesting. Yeah.
So Pinterest has the group boards, and they have kind of like gone away with them a little bit, not gone away with them, but what happened was like bloggers would all have these group boards, and they
Like
would just
click
put
farm it
photo
almost?
content in there. So then it wasn't like, Pinterest really wanted to focus on like how the user still uses group boards. So group boards work well if you have like a small amount of people in the same niche. But the reason why like group boards aren't being like pushed, like enhancing group boards aren't being pushed as much,
Is because people have
is because people were just like dumping in, and the boards were about all different topics.
Sounds like Pinterest click farm. Like
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it was meant for like, you know, me and my mom sharing what we were gonna do on vacation.
Right.
And people kind of started abusing it, and
That's too
all
bad.
different sorts of topics were going into one board. So if you, they do still work if you do like
Right.
specific topics,
And keep
like
it-
people that talk about and write about the same things that you do.
Yeah, I would wonder, just because we don't know Pinterest algorithm, whenever they fold a feature or step away from it, I sometimes innately wonder if they are, you know, toggling the algorithm to do just the same, to like not have group boards show up as much. So I'll need to dig into that, maybe even do a test, because when we did a similar thing with Tennessee where we had influencers like family mom bloggers put on a group board together, and it did fairly well. It didn't have paid, so I think like, again, that's why I was like, I think later on it could have gotten more interest, but I could definitely see people just like making massive boards that just show up all the time and dilute search results. It's too bad. It's too bad. That's not the spirit of group boards for sure. What's your question?
I have a question about, you mentioned about Google Voice, and you said you can get indexed through Google Snippet. Can you expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, featured snippets when, like, for instance, you search for, like, how hot to cook chicken in the oven and a compelling visual search result pops up at the top of the page. That's featured snippet. A lot of these different visual search results you see are considered rich snippets as well, and they're just great to pop up for. But in the research that my team and I have done, looking into which queries tend to be indexed on Google Voice Search, we tend to find that what gets indexed is whatever the featured snippet is. So Google is, and that changes. Like, that's not something that, like, it's not like, oh, I'm the king of the castle and you can get comfortable. Featured snippets, I love. I think it's a strategic game that's interesting to go for, because of course all the things to get featured snippets are things that you should be doing with your site anyways. But it is a constant, like, someone else is on top and then they're indexing someone else and they're pulling from someone else's information. So in general, just having a well-optimized site, looking into different structured data and schema elements will help you take better opportunity to rank for featured snippets and in voice search from that on out. Cool. I guess we're ready for lunch. Let's do it. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. Again, let's connect if you want to connect, and I hope to see you around WordPress camp for the rest of the weekend. Thank you.